Okay, welcome back to another tutorial with Mr. Arsenault. Today we'll be looking at buttons and the initial coding on how to get them interactive via code. Alright, so let's get started. I have my stage up here, and I also have my timeline. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw something within my stage that I can use as an actual button. For simplicity's sake, I'll use a circle. Let's just change its color to red and K fill. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to my selection tool, and just like creating a movie clip, I'm going to select it all, right click, scroll down to convert to symbol, or I could equally press F8. Now instead of using my type movie clip, I'm going to select from the drop down menu button. It doesn't really matter what I call it. I'll call it button. There we go. Okay, and now it's a button. When you double click into the symbol, you'll notice that just like a movie clip, you have a separate timeline, but you only have 4 frames to use. This is kind of important. It's a little bit of a shortcut for us. So just like everything else we're going to do, we're going to keyframe, right click, insert keyframe. I'll change the color from red to blue. Now I'm going to go back to up, see what changed color. Now I can be able to tell. Go to down, keyframe, F6, do another color so I can see that it's changed again. And hit, let's do one more. Now because this is just a generic flash file, we won't actually ever get to see the green in the hit frame, because the hit is for when you have hyperlinks and that sort of thing. And because we won't be dealing with hyperlinks in this class, we basically won't ever see it. So the 4 steps are up, over, down, and hit. Up is when the button is untouched. Over is when you scroll over, it changes to this color. Down is when you physically click your mouse. Okay. And hit, well, that's when you unclick your mouse and you move off of it. It should change color. But in Flash, it just resets back to the up position. So to be able to see this, you can't go from here, go back to my scene 1, and just like my other movie clips, it's embedded, so I can't actually see it on the timeline. Wouldn't make much sense or do me any good because I only have the 1 frame anyways. So 1 frame isn't going to do anything. But when I run my movie, and I scroll over it, right now it's in the up stage. This is the over. Notice I get a hand cursor. So up, over, down. And when I release, it goes back to the over stage, not the hit stage. When I scroll off, it goes back to red. Okay, so that is how you make a button. Now, to be able to code this button, it's actually quite simple. There are some notes handed out in the class, and they're also available on D2L. But you need to have 2 things. You need to have a listener, and then you need to have a function. So it's listening for something, and then once it finds what it's looking for, it's going to do something. Okay, so we need to open up our Actions panel. To do that, go under Window on your menu bar, select Actions or F9, and because we'll actually be using Actions quite a bit, I strongly advise you take your Actions tab by clicking on it and docking it into your timeline panel. And if it's too large, you can always shrink it back down just by selecting the window and moving it back down. Can I actually do that? Oh, I moved it out. I'd have to resize it later because I don't want to spend too much time on this class. But you'd resize it and bring it back down. Okay, so in my Actions panel, I first have to call on my button. Now, you have 2 different things for your button. You have a symbol name, so you can drag out multiple instances of it, just like we've always done. But if we go to Properties, it's asking for an instance name, and that's what the coding of Actionscript is going to actually require us. So right now I have 1, 2, 3 buttons. So I'm just going to delete these 2 guys, so we only deal with the 1. If it's highlighted, you will be able to access these properties, and I will call it red. To make things easy, I'll just go R. And because it's a button, I like to use the suffix _btn. That's just a personal preference, but it doesn't really matter as long as you have the exact same name. Okay, you'll notice that my code actually reflects that. So when I go down to my code, I will start typing. I have to first reference my button name. So R_btn. Dot means I'm linking something to it. What am I linking to it? I'm linking an add event listener. And it has to be spelled just like so. Capital E, capital L. That's called a naming convention. Okay, and then you open your bracket. And we're going to use a mouse event, capital M, capital E. And then we're going to attach the mouse event, either a click, a mouse out, or a mouse over. And these are also referenced in the notes. So click takes all caps, then it's comma, and now I need a function name. Well, I'll call this red button. Close my bracket, semicolon to end my line. Come down a little bit just to give me some spacing. And now I will call on my function. So I'll go function, space, red button, and you'll notice that I have to spell it exactly the same way that it's spelled here. Otherwise it won't work. So when I attach my event listener, I have to use the exact name of my button in my instance name. And when I'm creating a function, I have to use the exact same name that I referenced when I created my function here. So now when it clicks, it's going to go to red button. And here's the definition for my red button. I'll just finish it off. It is an event, colon, oh, I see you scrolling over. It is a mouse event, oh, lowercase, close bracket, colon, void. Void means nothing's being returned, and that's a concept that we discuss in class, but it would take a little bit too much YouTube time, so let's cut out that function today. Now we have to open our curly brace, and you always make sure that you close your curly brace. Flash is very smart in that way, that if you open something, it'll automatically close it as long as it's curly braced. Sometimes you'll get an error expecting a close because you open it just like in English class. You have to close it. Okay, so now that we have our function created, anything that happens inside of these two brackets will always happen anytime our R button is clicked. So the easiest thing to do to make sure it works is to use a trace statement. To do that, just type in trace, open bracket, open double quotation marks, and type whatever you want. This button was hit. And you'll notice that Flash sometimes adds drop-in menus. That's to help you out. It's kind of like an autofill, but I don't typically like to use it. If you're an advanced user, it might prove to be very handy. So now I'll close my parentheses, close my bracket, and semicolon because that's the end of my line. I'll zoom out of here. Now I'll run my program. Command return is my shortcut. And once it loads, my button still works, so that's a good thing. If you had an error, it would not work. We will go over errors in another class. But as soon as I click it, my trace statement comes out. This button was hit. You notice down here in the left-hand side? The output is strictly for the programmer. It'll tell you as the programmer the errors that come out or the trace statements. But the user will only see the button being pushed and changing colors. Notice every time I click it, my trace statement comes up again. That's because every time I click it, it's running my function. Go back into my actions, and we can do a whole lot of stuff in here, but we'll actually include that in the following video. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.